I'm going to say something most people don't like hearing. Doing hard things isn't complicated. It never was. And if you're struggling right now, it's probably not because you lack discipline or motivation. It's because you've been taught the wrong order. For years, self-improvement has been sold like this massive, overwhelming puzzle. Wake up at 5 a.m., ice baths and perfect routines. And if you fail, the conclusion is always the same. You just didn't want it bad enough. But the truth is much simpler and honestly more uncomfortable. So the goal of this video is not to hype you up. It's to strip this down to the few things that actually matter when it comes to doing hard things consistently, without burnout, without restarting every 2 weeks, and without turning your life into a performance. Because let's be honest, you can scroll your phone for an hour or binge an entire show, but ask yourself to sit down and work. Train your body, study, or build something meaningful, and suddenly it feels heavy. But why does effort feel painful even when you want the outcome? And why does some people seem to do hard things every day without making it dramatic? Here's the truth, guys. Hard things don't feel hard because they're hard. They feel hard because of how your life is structured, and that's it. Most people assume discipline is something you either have or you don't, like a personality trait or genetics. But that's wrong. Discipline isn't who you. It's what happens when your environment, your habits, and your timing are working together. And when they're not, no amount of motivation fixes it. This is where most people get stuck. They try to add discipline on top of a life that isn't set up for it. And then they blame themselves when it doesn't work. But the problem was never effort. It was just the setup. The self-improvement industry doesn't talk about this much because simplicity doesn't sell well. Complexity does. The more complicated change feels, the more overwhelmed people become. And the more overwhelmed people are, the more likely they are to keep searching. So they buy another plan. They try another system. They watch more videos because confusion creates the feeling that the answer is still out there somewhere. And YouTube, whether it means to or not, often makes this worse. Simple ideas get stretched. Basic principles get buried under routines, frameworks, and explanations. Before long, something that should feel manageable starts to feel heavy. And when change feels heavy, failure feels reasonable. That's the part no one likes to admit. If it's complicated, quitting doesn't feel like quitting. It feels like waiting until you're ready. So people convince themselves there must be more to it. More steps or more preparation. But real progress has always been simple. Not easy, but simple. You don't need more discipline. You need a life that makes discipline make sense. And once the structure's right, consistency stops feeling like a fight. It just becomes the natural outcome. Most people live in this order: simulation, comfort, work. Maybe it's always phone first, entertainment first, relief first. Then they sit down and wonder why effort feels impossible. But your brain already got what it wanted. It already got paid. So it has no reason to cooperate. The people who are consistent don't have more discipline. They live in a different order. Work, relief, then reward. That's the entire secret. But why does motivation fail? It fails because motivation is designed to respond to anticipation. Your brain doesn't care about long-term rewards. It cares about what happens next. And if the most stimulating thing in your life always comes before effort, then effort will always feel heavy. This isn't a mindset issue, it's mechanics. So instead of trying to wake up one day as a disciplined person, you simplify the environment. You stop asking for motivation and you just fix the order. The first rule is simple. You remove stimulation before effort. Not all day, not forever, just before. If you check your phone first thing, if you entertain yourself before you work, or if your brain gets stimulation before effort, don't be surprised when effort feels heavy. Because effort doesn't fail on its own. It fails when it comes after easy stimulation. Your brain already got what it wanted. So focus feels harder than it should. And boredom isn't something to fight. Boredom is actually the transition. When stimulation drops, work stops feeling like punishment. It doesn't suddenly become enjoyable, it just becomes manageable. And manageable is enough. Because once something feels manageable, starting stops being the problem. And that's how real progress actually begins. 2. Shrink the task. The second rule is just as simple. You shrink the task. Most people don't avoid work. They avoid starting something that feels too big. If you've ever planned to work out for an hour, grind all day, or completely change your life starting tomorrow, and then didn't start at all, you already know this. If that sounds familiar, drop a bro in the comments. Big plans don't motivate you. They create pressure. And pressure makes starting feel heavier than it needs to be. So instead of promising yourself more, you lower the entry. One set. 1 page, 2 minutes of prayer or meditation. That's enough because your brain doesn't resist effort. It resists feeling trapped.